my name's Michael Condon, representing Toomedtoo. We've got your fix, and this is the Solo, a Star Wars story movie review. Before it starts, I need to let you know that I also have Solo, the official guide, and the Art of Solo that I will be going through with a fine-tooth comb over the next few weeks or months and bringing you all the information that they have in them. The movie, I went and saw it in 4D, and that's why it took so long for me to get this review out, because I needed to go see it a second time. Because when I walked out of the theater after seeing it in 4D, it was a 10, maybe a 12. It reminded me of when I was a kid and I went to Disney World for the first time, and the rides there, and it was when they were first coming out with the electronic ones in the late 80s, early 90s. My seat was moving around. There was smells coming. I was getting sprayed with water and fog. When people were getting hit and punched, I was getting hit and punched in the back. So really wasn't probably true to how the movie actually was just viewing it. Although I do highly recommend going to see it like that, and any movie that would probably make it worth the extra $10 for the ticket. Yeah. But I understand after seeing it that way how people felt in 1977 when they saw the first Star Wars. And perfect example, one of my favorite shows is That 70s Show, and Eric Foreman, it changed his life when he went and saw it. And many of the shows, or many of the episodes after he went and saw it, were all about Star Wars or Star Wars related. But I digress. The easiest way to explain this movie, I think, is Indiana Jones goes to Star Wars. It was an action movie along the lines of something you'd get in Indiana Jones, which makes sense since it was a Kasdan movie. Lawrence Kasdan, the father of the father-son duo that wrote the movie, wrote episode 5, 6, and 7, and had part to do with 8 in more of a producer role. And he also wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark. This movie is full of Easter eggs and has so much depth in the writing. A lot of the jokes or innuendos you have to be a big Star Wars fan to get. There was a lot of them that I got that people around me didn't get. There was ones that people around me got that I didn't get, or they just found things funny that I didn't, or got excited over other things. But there was definitely a lot of depth in it. Some of the Easter eggs, there wasn't really anything gratuitous until the end with the big reveal when Darth Maul, we find out, is the big heavy gangster. But it also ties in with references to the book The Last Shot that recently came out, and ties in very well with the book Most Wanted, I believe is the name of it. Most Wanted gives a little bit more background to the story of what happened. In regards to it being directed by Ron Howard, I'm not really sure that I can show or say the influence I noticed from Ron Howard, because although I've seen many films that Ron Howard has directed, he doesn't have, I believe, or noticeable to me, a real style that makes you say, hey, that's a Ron Howard film, or something that reminds me of a Ron Howard film. I think that we know George Lucas did visit the set and had a big influence on one scene. That was a scene where Han and Kira are about to make out, and Han takes the cape from her, and originally he hung it up before they had their makeout session. And when they were filming this is when George Lucas was there, and George Lucas told Ron Howard, who originally had Han hanging up the cape, he wouldn't hang it up, he would just throw it on the ground. Which leads me to believe there's so many things in this movie that, with all of the Easter eggs and innuendos and little tidbits of information that we gain or tie-ins to other movies, I wonder how much more influence Lucas really had. That him and Ron Howard have been friends for almost 50 years. I think that Ron could call him up and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this scene, or what do you think about this? And Lucas would have been much more willing to help or give direction than if it was somebody else that was just came in to direct the movie. As I said, it's an adventure movie, but it's definitely a comedy first. The Kasdans, as I talked about in one of my previous videos, talked about movies and books that influenced them, and they ranged everywhere from Treasure Island to The Big Lebowski and everywhere in between. This being fast-paced and fun and a great ride, not the Disneyland ride I alluded to, but humorous almost the entire time, even when they're at war in the beginning of the film. And then you have other things that are supposed to get your big laughs or are your big jokes. When Han has the thermal detonator that's actually a rock, the banter between Han and Lando during the Sabacc games, and other times where Han got to drop the I know line, which is a famous one that I have passed on through generations. Except this one was I hate you, I know, not I love you, I know. But speaking of love, we have the shower scene between Chewie and Han, and where you can see some of the influence from the movies that the Kasdans talked about when they were plotting the Kessel Run, going back and forth, and it's obvious that no one knows how they're plotting it and making it up as they go along, but building off each other and saving each other and making ideas seem like they were their own. That leads us into characters. Han, I think, was a great Han. It wasn't excellent or 100%, but I'd have to say probably one of the best you could expect from such an iconic character, and bringing in Aaron Reich to be Han. He didn't do impersonations. A lot of times through the movie, his facial movements or body language seemed just like the Han Solo we know from the original trilogy. This was the Han Solo movie, but it could have easily been called Han and Chewie or something along those lines. Chewie, it was the most we've ever seen him on screen, and it was brilliant. The interaction between Han and Chewie was great. I don't know how you'd be able to pull off a standalone Chewie movie, but it makes me think that there would be maybe something there. Kira, it was a good performance. Not the best I've seen, but better than many performances I have seen in Star Wars movies. Lando was great. A few times it seemed as if it was more of a Lando impression versus Glover being Lando. It seemed like he was trying to be Billy D. Voss, solid performance. I would have liked to see what or how the movie would have ended up if it was Michael Williams or Michael P. Williams. There's a middle initial in there somewhere, I believe. How it would have been if he was in it, because Everything I've seen him in, he's been phenomenal. Beckett was great. It didn't seem like some of the stereotypical roles of Woody Harrelson, where it's Woody's a one-dimensional actor and all of them seem the same. I think he did a really good job of having a unique experience. Enfys Nest was probably one of the biggest surprises that we have in the movie. We all heard the rumors that it was going to be a woman. We didn't know she was going to be so young, and her storyline. Then we get to the three characters that probably caused the most controversy out of this movie. You have Rio, L3, and Val. Rio, he served his purpose. He was funny. He got shot and either needed to be wounded bad enough that he couldn't pilot the plane and had to be out of the rest of the movie, or kill him. So they killed him. L3, this is another one that I would have liked to see more L3, although I did find the character over the top at some times, and with how over the top the droid rights were and equal rights, I don't know if it wasn't done to kind of thumb the nose at the people that have been calling for Star Wars boycotts and everything because of the social justice warrior, that they were like, you want to see a Mary Sue? You want to have something to complain about social justice warriors about? You know, here's right in your face. You couldn't be more blatant about it. And then we have Val. Val, an amazing character. Would have liked to see her live. One of the things that was a big complaint is that they finally put a strong woman of color into a Star Wars movie, and she dies in the first 15 minutes or has 5 minutes of screen time. She did one of the most powerful things, just like Obi-Wan did and Luke Skywalker did. She sacrificed herself so that the others could live. Although I would have liked to see more of her, that was one of the strongest performances, even though it was only for a few minutes. We also have aliens returning that we haven't seen in a while, which should make people happy. Aliens that we had in the original trilogy. We have the Kessel Run. I was expecting something different. I was still happy with it, but I thought it was going to be the Kessel Run was more of a race or something along those lines, which it was a race against time, but I thought it was going to be a race against other ships and scoundrels or what have you. One of the biggest things in this movie was it makes a lot of sense why Han Solo and Rey get along so well, because they are almost mirror images of each other or situations, which explains why everyone thought, oh, she has to be a Solo, the way they interact, the way they are. Well, no, it's because he sees herself in her, and when he was this young, idealistic kid, as Beckett calls him. And this movie does a great job showing how Han Solo became Han Solo. In the beginning of the film, he's a lot more idealistic and thinks everything's going to be okay and is going to be great. There's a scene in this film where Kira tells him that they don't want to make an enemy of the Crimson Dawn. Han says that he's not afraid of them. He can take care of himself. He says that he's an outlaw, and Kira laughs in his face and says the line everyone was speculating how it took place of, I may be the only one in the galaxy who truly knows what you are. You're the good guy. And Han's like, no, I'm not. But we see it when he volunteers himself to go with Beckett to meet Voss. he could have been gone. He could have just split and said, see you later. Instead, he said, no, I'll throw myself in the lion's den with you. We were a team. We stay a team. That's not really a bad boy or an outlaw, but it does do well for the gangster or heist part of the film where you're a team, you got to stick together. And then you have where he was betrayed by Beckett, by Kira. So we see that there is still more room or time for growth or to become more jaded and be the Han Solo that we know. Lastly, this movie set up a lot of movies or storylines or shows that can be done, whether it's a Solo 2, an Enfys Nest, Darth Maul, Kenobi film that's rumored to be in the works, a Boba Fett film which has been confirmed to be in the works, the Lando film that people have been saying would be great. As I mentioned earlier, we do have Darth Maul at the end of the movie as the big bad guy. He's definitely set up for whether it's part of a Solo 2 or one of the bounty hunters, or there's so many ways they can go with what they have set up for this movie that it could be live action, cartoon, books, movies. The possibilities are endless with everything right now. Although Solo isn't performing too hot at the theaters, hopefully it has some staying power now that schools are getting out. Please like and share this video and subscribe to become part of the Toomedtoo Mafia. We've got your fix. I said good day. May the Force be with you.